Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I pulled a story straight from the depths of Reddit. The kind of story that starts slow and then refuses to let go. It's unsettling, personal, and once you hear it, you won't forget it. So get comfortable, turn the lights down, and let's begin. My boss fired me for stealing company time. Then I found his secret only FA. NS. I remember exactly how the air felt in that office. It was stagnant, smelling of burnt coffee and that industrial carpet cleaner they used to hide the fact that the building is rotting from the inside out. I was sitting in my cubicle, staring at a spreadsheet that had started to look like a blur of gray numbers when the Slack notification popped up. Caleb, my office. Now, my heart didn't just skip a beat, it sank into my stomach like a lead weight. My boss, Mr. Henderson, or the shark, as we called him behind his back, didn't do chats. He did executions. I stood up, my knees feeling a little weak. I'm 28 years old. I've got a degree that cost me more than my car, and I was still terrified of a man who wore ties that cost more than my monthly rent. I walked past the other cubicles, feeling the eyes of my coworkers on me. They knew, in a corporate environment, bad news travels faster than light. I stepped into his office, and the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. The city traffic outside was muffled by the thick glass, leaving nothing but the sound of my own heavy breathing. Henderson didn't look up from his monitor for a long, agonizing minute. "Sit down, Caleb," he finally said. His voice was like sandpaper on silk. "Is something wrong, sir?" I asked. I hated how high my voice sounded. I sounded like a kid in the principal's office. He turned the monitor around. It was a log of my login times. Every break, every bathroom trip, every second I wasn't actively clicking a mouse button was highlighted in aggressive neon red. "You've been stealing company time for 6 months," he said, leaning back. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. It adds up, Caleb. It's theft. Plain and simple. "Mr. Henderson, my daughter was sick." I blurted out, the words catching in my throat. I had to take calls from the daycare. I stayed late every night to make it up. Check the logs for 7 p.m. "I don't care about 7 p.m., he snapped, his eyes turning into cold slits. "I care about the contract. You were paid to be here mentally and physically for 8 hours. You weren't. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security is already packing your desk." The room started to spin. "Fired? Sir, please. I'm 2 months behind on my car payment. I can't." "Not my problem," he said, turning back to his screen. "Maybe you should have valued my time as much as I valued your paycheck. Get out." I walked out of that building with a cardboard box and a sense of absolute crushing failure. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour just staring at the steering wheel. How was I going to tell Sarah? How were we going to pay for the insulin? The American dream felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I went home, but I couldn't go inside. I couldn't look at my wife and daughter and tell them I'd lost everything, over 40 minutes of stolen time. I drove to a local park, pulled out my laptop, and connected to the free Wi-Fi. I needed to update my resume. I needed a miracle. While I was scouring job boards, an ad popped up on the side of my browser. It was one of those annoying, redirected links. Usually I'd close it instantly, but my hand slipped on the trackpad. The page loaded. It was a creator profile on a site I recognized instantly, even if I'd never used it. OnlyFans. I was about to hit the back button when I saw the profile picture. It was a man in a very expensive, very familiar silk tie. The face was masked by a theatrical Venetian-style masquerade bird mask, but I'd spent 3 years staring at that office background. I knew that mahogany desk. I knew that silver World's Best Boss paperweight that I'd personally polished a dozen times. And then I saw the username. At the Time Master. The irony hit me like a physical blow. The man who just fired me for stealing time was spending his afternoons in his locked office, filming himself for a subscription fee while he was on the company clock. My mouse hovered over his latest post. It was behind a $50 paywall. I looked at my bank account. I had $112 left. I shouldn't. I whispered to the empty car. "This is crazy." But then I thought about Henderson's face when he told me my life wasn't his problem. I thought about the theft he accused me of. I clicked subscribe. When the video loaded, my jaw hit my chest. It wasn't just a regular video. It was a recording from earlier that afternoon. In the background, through the frosted glass of his office door, I could see a blurry silhouette standing outside, waiting to be let in. It was me. He had been filming a clock-out fantasy video while I was standing outside his door, heart pounding, waiting to be fired. I sat there in the driver's seat of my rusted-out 2014 Ford, the blue light of the laptop screen reflecting off my glasses. My hand was shaking so hard, I had to grip the steering wheel just to keep from dropping the computer. It felt like I had just stumbled onto a live wire. In the video, Henderson was wearing his signature $2,000 charcoal suit, but he had his pants around his ankles. He was whispering into a high-end condenser microphone, talking about control and efficiency. And as I watched, my own muffled voice came through the speakers. "Mr. Henderson, it's Caleb. You wanted to see me." In the video, he looked toward the door, a smirk of pure, unadulterated malice crossing his face. He didn't stop filming. He just adjusted the camera angle, so my blurry outline through the glass was framed perfectly behind him. He was using my professional execution as a backdrop for a power play fetish video. The heat that rose up my neck wasn't just embarrassment, it was white-hot, liquid rage. This man had lectured me on the sanctity of company time. He had called me a thief because I answered a call from my daughter's pediatrician. Meanwhile, he was literally profiting off the moment he destroyed my life. "You son of a bitch," I whispered. I started scrolling through his media gallery. It was a goldmine of hypocrisy. There were videos of him punishing imaginary employees, using company stationery as props, and the most damning part, timestamp posts that lined up perfectly with our most important board meetings. While the CEO was talking about Q4 projections, Henderson was in the back row, surreptitiously filming his feet under the table for a workplace domination thread. I spent the next 3 hours in that park, the sun dipping below the horizon and the temperature in the car dropping, but I didn't feel the cold. I was busy. I was downloading everything. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet, but I knew I couldn't just walk away. My theft was a few minutes of fatherhood. His theft was tens of thousands of dollars in salary, equipment usage, and corporate espionage. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Hey, honey, you're late. Dinner's getting cold. Is everything okay? You didn't answer my last 3 texts." I felt a fresh wave of guilt wash over me. I looked at the subscribe receipt in my email, $50 gone. That was a week's worth of groceries. I had spent it on a monster's secret life. I closed the laptop, shoved it into my bag, and drove home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Sarah was at the kitchen table, her nursing textbooks spread out in front of her. She looked up, and the smile she started to give me died the moment she saw my face. "Caleb, what happened? Where's your bag?" I couldn't hold it in. I sat down and put my head in my hands. "He fired me, Sarah. Henderson. He said I was stealing time." The silence that followed was heavy. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of our daughter, Chloe, coughing in her sleep. Sarah didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just walked over and put her hand on my shoulder. "We'll figure it out," she said, though I could hear the tremor in her voice. "I can pick up extra shifts at the hospital. We can talk to the bank about the car." "No," I said, looking up. My eyes were red, but they were sharp. "We aren't losing the car, and you aren't working double shifts until you collapse. Caleb, if we don't have your income, I found something, Sarah, something big." I opened the laptop and showed her. I watched her face go from confusion to disgust to a strange, dark kind of realization. Is that his office?" she whispered. "It's his office, it's his desk, and that," I pointed to the timestamp on the video I had just watched, "is the exact moment he told me I was fired. He was live streaming it to 300 subscribers at $20 a pop." Sarah sat back, her face pale. "This is blackmail, Caleb. If you try to use this, he'll call the cops. Men like him They have lawyers. We have nothing. It's not blackmail. If I'm reporting a crime to HR, I said, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. He's using corporate assets for a private business. He's violating every ethics clause in the handbook. He used me as an unwitting participant in adult content. That's a lawsuit, Sarah. That's a career ender. I stayed up all night. I didn't sleep a wink. I created a digital black box, a folder containing every timestamp, every video, and a side-by-side comparison of his company login records and his OnlyFans upload schedule. By 6 a.m., I had a plan. It was risky. It was probably the most dangerous thing I'd ever done. But as I watched the sun come up over a modest neighborhood, I realized I wasn't just doing this for the money. I was doing it because men like Henderson think the world is their playground, and people like me are just the equipment. I dressed in my best suit, the one I had worn to my interview 3 years ago. I kissed Chloe on the forehead while she slept, and I looked Sarah in the eye. "I'm going back in," I said. "Caleb, wait," she said, grabbing my hand. "Just be careful. He's a shark, remember?" "I know," I said, a grim smile touching my lips. "But I'm the one with the cage now." I didn't go to the front desk. I didn't wait for security. I kept my key card in my pocket when I left the day before, betting on the fact that HR was too slow to deactivate it until the weekend. The light turned green. The door clicked open. I headed straight for the top floor, not to Henderson's office. I went higher. I went to the office of the regional director, a woman named Mrs. Vane, who was famous for two things: her ironclad discipline and her hatred for anything that tarnished the company's family-friendly image. I stood outside her door and took a deep breath. This was it. No turning back. I knocked. The waiting area outside Mrs. Vane's office felt like the deck of a sinking ship. Every time a secretary looked up or a phone rang, I felt a jolt of adrenaline that made my vision swim. I was a former employee trespassing on private property with a laptop full of my boss's illicit activities. If this went wrong, I wasn't just going home to a car repossession, I was going to jail. "Mrs. Vane will see you now," Caleb, the assistant, said, looking confused. She clearly hadn't gotten a memo that I'd been axed 18 hours ago. I walked in. Mrs. Vane was a woman who radiated a terrifying kind of competence. She was 60 with silver hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, and eyes that could find a decimal error in a 100-page report from across the room. "Caleb," she said, not looking up from her desk. "I was under the impression Mr. Henderson processed your termination yesterday afternoon. Why are you in my office?" "I'm here as a whistleblower, Mrs. Vane," I said. I sat down without being asked. My heart was thundering, but my voice stayed steady. "I'm here to report a massive misappropriation of company resources and a gross violation of the moral turpitude clause in our contracts." She finally looked up. Her glasses slid down her nose. "Those are very specific, very legalistic terms. You have 30 seconds to justify them before I call security." I didn't say a word. I just turned my laptop around and hit play on the clock-out fantasy video. I watched her face. It was like watching a statue crack. First, she recognized the office. Then, she recognized the voice outside the door, my voice. Finally, she saw Henderson, mask or no mask, and the silver paperweight that the company had given him for 10 years of service. She didn't scream. She didn't gasp. She just turned stone cold. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "He has an OnlyFans page, Mrs. Vane," I said. "He calls himself the Time Master. He's been filming this content during office hours on company property using the very company time he fired me for supposedly stealing." I opened the spreadsheet I'd built. I cross-referenced his upload metadata with the building's badge and logs. He spent over 400 hours this year alone producing adult content while on the clock. He's effectively being paid a six-figure salary by this firm to run a private pornographic studio. The silence in the room was absolute. Mrs. Vane leaned back, her hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from a rage so deep it looked like ice. "He used our brand," she muttered. "He used the executive suite. He used me." I added, my voice cracking just a little. "He recorded my firing. He turned my life, falling apart, into a scene for his subscribers. I have a 3-year-old daughter, Mrs. Vane. I have a wife in nursing school. He sat there and mocked my desperation for profit." She looked at me, then really looked at me. For the first time in 3 years of working there, I felt like she saw me as a human being, not just a line on a budget. "Stay here," she said. She picked up her desk phone. "Security? I need a lockdown on Office 402. Now, and send Mr. Henderson to my office immediately. Tell him it's an emergency regarding the Q4 audit." The 10 minutes it took for Henderson to arrive felt like 10 years. I sat in the corner of the room, hidden by a decorative floor plant, my laptop closed, but my hand resting on it like a shield. The door burst open. Henderson walked in, looking annoyed, adjusting his cufflinks. He hadn't even changed his tie from the video. "Agnes, what's this about?" I was right in the middle of. He stopped. He saw me. His face went through a spectacular transformation. Confusion, then recognition, then a smug, condescending sneer. "Caleb, what the hell are you doing here?" I told security to sit down. "Harold," Mrs. Vane said. Her voice was a whip. Henderson blinked, his smugness wavering. "Agnes, I don't know what this little thief has told you, but he was fired for time theft. I have logs." "Oh, we're going to talk about logs, Harold," she said. She turned my laptop around. The color drained from Henderson's face so fast, I thought he was going to faint. He reached for the laptop, but Mrs. Vane slammed her hand down on the desk. "Don't touch it," she hissed. "I've already seen it. I've seen the Time Master. I've seen the clock-out fantasy. And I've seen the equipment in the background that belongs to this company." Henderson's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Agnes, it's not. It's a character. It's performance art. It's a private hobby. On my time," she roared, standing up. "On this company's floor? You fired this man for taking a phone call from his daughter's doctor while you were filming yourself in your underwear 5 feet away." "I can explain," he stammered, his eyes darting toward the door. "There's nothing to explain," she said. "You're not just fired, Harold. We are suing you for every cent of salary you earned while producing this. We are suing you for unauthorized use of corporate property. And Caleb here, I think he has a very strong case for a civil suit regarding his likeness being used in your performances." Henderson looked at me. The shark was gone. In his place was a small, pathetic man who had been caught with his pants down, literally. "Caleb," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Please, think about my family, my reputation." I stood up. I walked over to him, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying for years. I looked at the man who had tried to make me feel small, who had tried to take away my ability to provide for Sarah and Chloe. "Funny," I said, leaning in so only he could hear. "I guess I just didn't value why. Our reputation, as much as you value my time. Isn't that what you told me?" Henderson didn't leave quietly. After Mrs. Vane ordered him out, he spent 20 minutes in the hallway, screaming about privacy violations and wrongful access to his personal accounts. He looked like a man who had been struck by lightning, charred, vibrating, and dangerous. I stayed in Mrs. Vane's office while security escorted him to the elevators. My hands were finally starting to stop shaking, replaced by a cold, hollow numbness. I had won the battle, but the war felt like it was just starting. "Caleb," Mrs. Vane said, her voice softer now. She was leaning against her mahogany desk, looking every bit of her 60 years. "You realize that by showing me this, you've basically nuked his life, right? There's no coming back for a man like Harold after this hits the corporate board." "He nuked mine first," I said, my voice sounding older than I felt. "He didn't just fire me. He used my humiliation to entertain strangers for $50 a head. I don't feel sorry for him. I'm not asking you to, she replied. But I need you to understand something. This company is about to go into damage control mode. Our lawyers are going to want those files. They're going to want you to sign a dozen NDAs. And they're going to want to make this go away as quietly as possible. I'm not signing anything until I know my family is safe, I told her. She nodded slowly. Smart. Go home. Don't answer your phone if a number you don't recognize calls. I'll be in touch by the end of the day. I left the building through the side entrance. I didn't want to see anyone. I drove home, my mind racing. I kept seeing Henderson's face, the way his eyes had bugged out, the way his skin had turned a sickly shade of gray. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, but beneath it was a growing dread. A cornered animal is at its most vicious right before it gives up. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw a black SUV parked 2 houses down. It didn't look like a suit's car. It looked like Henderson's personal vehicle. My heart hammered against my ribs. I sat in my car for a minute, clutching my laptop bag. He wouldn't be that stupid, I thought. Not here, not my house. I walked inside, locking the door immediately behind me. Sarah was in the kitchen, her back to me. When she turned around, I saw she had been crying. Caleb, thank God, she whispered, rushing over to hug me. Someone called the house. A man. He didn't give a name, but he said if I didn't get you, to delete the cloud. Things were going to get very ugly for Chloe's future. The rage I felt earlier was nothing compared to this. It was a cold, surgical fire. He called you. I said, he threatened Chloe? He said he knew which daycare she went to. Sarah sobbed into my chest. Caleb, what did you do? Who is this man? He's a coward, Sarah, I said. He's a pathetic, small man who just lost everything. I grabbed my phone and dialed Henderson's personal cell. He picked up on the first ring. He didn't say hello. He just laughed, a jagged, hysterical sound. You think you're a hero, don't you, Caleb? Henderson hissed. The little guy, taking down the big bad boss. You destroyed my career. My wife is leaving me. My kids won't pick up the phone. You think I have anything left to lose? If you ever speak to my wife again, I said, my voice low and dangerous, or if you even look in the direction of my daughter's school, I won't just go to HR. I'll post every single one of those videos to the local news. I'll tag your wife. I'll tag your church. I'll make sure that every time someone Googles your name for the rest of your life, the first thing they see is the Time Master. You wouldn't, he whispered. That's revenge porn. You go to jail. Maybe, I said, but you be in there with me. And I've got nothing left but a car I can't pay for and a daughter who needs her father to protect her. What do you have left, Harold? A silver paperweight and a Venetian mask. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing heavy, ragged gasps. I have a counter offer, he finally said. His voice had changed. The hysteria was gone, replaced by a chilling, desperate calm. I have a private server, offshore. It contains the browser histories and internal Slack logs of 3 other directors at that firm. Agnes Vane isn't as clean as she looks, Caleb. Nobody is. You give me the laptop, and I give you the keys to the kingdom. You could own that company. I looked at Sarah. She was watching me, her eyes wide with fear. I thought about the car payment. I thought about the nursing school tuition. I thought about the American dream that Henderson had dangled in front of me like a carrot. You're missing the point, Harold, I said. And what's that? I don't want to be like you. I hung up, but as I put the phone down, I looked out the window. The black SUV wasn't 2 houses down anymore. It was idling right in front of my driveway. And Henderson was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at my front door with a look of pure, unhinged hatred. He wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to finish it. The silence in the house was deafening, broken only by the low rumble of Henderson's SUV idling at the curb. I felt Sarah's hand tighten on my arm. She didn't have to ask what was happening. She could see the silhouette behind the windshield just as clearly as I could. Stay in the hallway, I whispered, my voice sounding like it was coming from someone else. Keep Chloe in her room. Do not come out until I say so. Caleb, don't go out there, she pleaded, her eyes darting to the door. Call the police. Let them handle it. He's already called us. Sarah, if I don't end this now, he'll be under our skin for the rest of our lives. I didn't grab a weapon. I grabbed my phone. I hit record and tucked it into my breast pocket with the lens peeking out. Then I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. The humid afternoon air hit me like a physical weight. Henderson stepped out of his car. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a single night. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and his eyes were bloodshot and wild. He held a thick manila envelope in one hand and his car keys in the other, clutched like a brass knuckle. You really couldn't just walk away, could you? He shouted across the lawn. A neighbor across the street paused their lawnmower watching us. You had to be the moral authority. You, the guy who couldn't even keep his login time straight. Go home, Harold, I said, staying on the top step. I kept my voice calm, projecting it so the neighbor could hear. You're trespassing. You've already lost your job. Don't lose your freedom, too. He laughed, a high-pitched, jagged sound that set my teeth on edge. Freedom? My wife. Lock the doors, Caleb. She's filing for full custody. My bank accounts are being frozen by the firm's lawyers. You didn't just fire me. You erased me. He started walking up my driveway, his pace quickening. Give me the laptop. I know you have the local copies. Give them to me, or I swear to God, I will burn this whole block down with us in it. It's already in the cloud, Harold. I yelled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. Mrs. Vane has it. The board has it. Even if you kill me, right here, you're still the time master to the rest of the world. It's over. He froze halfway up the drive. The reality seemed to finally hit him, the sheer, immovable weight of his own actions. He looked down at the manila envelope in his hand, probably the leverage he had tried to offer me, and let it drop onto the oil-stained concrete of my driveway. I gave that company everything. He whimpered, his voice suddenly small. 10 years. I built that department, and they're gonna let a nobody like you ruin it? You ruined it, Harold. You stole the company's time, their money, and their trust. I just showed them the receipt. At that moment, the distant wail of a siren began to grow louder. Mrs. Vane had kept her word. She had called the authorities the moment the lockdown at the office failed to contain him. Henderson looked toward the sound, then back at me. For a second, I saw a flash of the old Henderson, the shark ready to lunge. But the light in his eyes flickered and went out. He looked in my house at the life I was fighting for, and he realized he didn't even have the energy to destroy it. He slumped against the hood of his SUV as the first patrol car rounded the corner. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He just sat there, staring at his hands as the officers moved in. The fallout was swifter than I expected. Henderson was charged with multiple counts of embezzlement and corporate theft. But the real victory came 2 weeks later. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the laptop open to a job board, when a courier knocked on the door. It was a thick packet from the firm's legal department. I expected a cease and desist or an NDA. Instead, it was a settlement offer. The company was terrified of a public lawsuit. They knew that if I went to the press about Henderson filming me during my termination, their stock would plummet. They offered a severance package that covered my lost wages, 3 years of full salary, and a hush money bonus that paid off Sarah's nursing school tuition and our car in one fell swoop. There was also a letter from Mrs. Vane. It was short and typed on her heavy, cream-colored stationery. Caleb, the audit is complete. Harold is gone, and the department is a mess. I'm not going to offer you your old job back. You're too good for it. But I've attached a recommendation for a senior role at a partner firm. They need someone who understands that integrity isn't about the hours on a clock, but what you do when you think no one is watching. Good luck. I closed the letter and looked out the window Chloe was playing in the yard, running through a sprinkler, her laughter echoing through the quiet afternoon. Sarah came up behind me, resting her chin on my shoulder as she read the numbers on the settlement check. "We're okay," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, feeling a tear finally prick at the corner of my eye. "We're more than okay." I thought about Henderson one last time. I heard he's waiting for trial in a county facility. I wonder if he still thinks about stealing time. I wonder if he realizes that the time he spent trying to be a master of the world was actually the only thing he ever really lost. As for me, I don't check the clock much anymore. I check on my family. I check on my friends. Because the most important thing I learned is that you can't steal time. You can only choose how to spend it. And I'm spending mine exactly where I belong.